Hello there everyone, welcome to a writer's analysis brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And today I, Lars, want to give a response to Clownfish TV's rant about prom episodes in cartoons. And really, I've low-key wanted to tackle the subject on a video for a while now, but Geeky Sparkles, you've convinced me to knuckle down and crank out this analysis about how and why dance/prom scenes are written and executed in stories. So let's first start off with the rant that came from Clownfish TV, and that is, current writers are obsessed with reclaiming the prom and making it the dance that they wish that they had had when they were in high school. So they cram these scenes into their cartoons more as a form of self-therapy than to complement the story. And my response to Geeky Sparkles is, yes and no? It's kind of complicated, so let me explain. And yes, because this is an analysis, there will be a full breakdown of what dance and prom scenes actually mean and how they've been used in storytelling in the past and how they are being used now. First of all, we have to understand that the idea of the prom is something that belongs to Western culture, specifically the United States and its neighbors. Having lived in Europe, I can tell you that with all the clubs and discos around, dancing is more of a pastime than anything else. And can you imagine anime characters who blush at just hand-holding how they would act going to the prom? Holy freaking nosebleeds, Batman! It would kill them! So prom is meaning our American and our neighbors, Canada and Mexico, it is our wonderful institution. But that isn't enough just to point that out. What we need to understand ultimately is what prom represents. No, it isn't just about the dancing. And I mean, I do love dancing, though when you see me out on the dance floor, it's kind of a weird combination of Anne doing her little hunting jig right there from Amphibia, maybe combine a little bit with dancing in For Better Off Dead, and whatever this is here in Hitch. So yeah, I love dancing, but I'm a terrible dancer. In any case, prom is not about the dancing. Prom is all about the meaning that this night represents. Prom is a rite of passage. It is closing the book on one chapter of our lives and stepping into another. Prom heralds the end of high school, and for seniors in high school, it means the end of their teenage years with graduation looming on the immediate horizon. And it could also mean the end of your time being single, and that you are now in a blissful relationship with your prom date. Or as it is more often the real case in real life, that you guys will be breaking up soon afterwards. The prom is this gaudy, glorious closure and the beginning of something new. That's the idea that has been in the minds of countless teens for generations. And if you are shaking your head and thinking, well, that wasn't my experience with prom, or that's not how I think about prom, I don't want to go. School dances suck. Well, as a teacher, and getting to see plenty of students, many who profess that school dances are horrible, I have watched those self-same kids come in droves to the prom. It is expected. It is a spectacle. It's a night that you want to cherish, even if you say that you don't want to go. And so in storytelling, specifically in Western or American ones, dances, and especially something as huge as the prom, represents a transformative moment. It is supposed to be the best night, the night where dreams come true, and it is further emphasized by our love for fairy tales, where, hey, what do you know, going to the ball is where dreams come true, and where dreams are kicked off. But I especially look at movies like Anastasia, where our female protagonist has her life changed in not one, not two, but 3 ball scenes. And yes, I count the ghost scene because it is gorgeously done and kicks off her journey to remembering her past and, of course, meeting Dimitri. Bringing these two elements together, the fact that we as Americans prize the prom and that major dances in stories highlight dreams coming true and character transformations and progression, it makes sense why writers would want to have dance episodes in their shows. Now, I want to tackle this claim that many of these episodes are made as a means to reclaiming the prom for the writers, vicariously living through their characters so that they can have the prom that they always dreamed of. Personally, I cannot identify with this sentiment, because my prom experience was so insane that I would never want to give it up. Even though the girl that I went with was not my first choice, we had a blast together, and I asked her out by flooding the bed of her truck and making a pool so I could put little goldfish into it. And my best friend at the time had set up this amazing fancy dinner with his family that we all got to enjoy before we went to the prom, and the prom itself was insane because this girl who had usurped power over the student body council had insisted that the prom be held at a place with a Holocaust memorial. And so when we walked into the prom, we were surrounded by all of these pictures of dead people absolutely everywhere. And then when we walked into the prom, this guy tried to deck me because he was plaster drunk, and his buddy had to hold him down for the entire night so that way he wouldn't beat up other people. And then we went over to this area where we thought it was all nice and clear so we could get a quick rest, but no, that was actually the wall where everyone was, I kid you not, lined up from being passed out either because they had danced themselves to exhaustion or because they had passed out after snorting questionable substances in the bathroom. Yes, this was my prom. It was so crazy that why would I want to give up these kinds of memories? And so, my fellow viewers and friends, what I'm just telling you right here is only the tip of the iceberg for that insane night. So yeah, I have no reason to reclaim the prom personally because I loved that night. It was so bizarre and insane. But for a night that holds so much meaning for the youth, if you didn't get what you wanted, I can totally understand why people would go to crazy lengths to have a school dance that they feel would be their night. But as a writer, and looking at people who are writing these scenes into their shows, I have to ask, are they doing it right? When I look at how school dances have been pulled off in many other forms of media, I think first and foremost of prom scenes in movies like Never Been Kissed, and I particularly love the ending to She's All That, and I even think of something more recent like The Duff. The Yule Ball in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is also something that I personally think was done extremely well and shows how a dance, even if it's not the prom, can be used as a fantastic climactic moment for certain character arcs. All of these stories use dances as moments for characters to have big transformations or realizations, or maybe the plot takes a sudden turn that we weren't expecting. But it's not just the expectation of the dances and all that implies, it's also all of the narrative buildup that gives us the great payoff that we see when we have these guys and these girls struggling before they go to the prom, and then boom, they have this amazing important night, and we see how it plays out. Much like all the effort that real teens go through to get ready for the prom. And so the classical approach is that the dance usually happens at the end, or at a moment kind of in the middle where we really get that climax. Usually the dance represents the big aha moment that everything has been building up to. So what about the new approach to prom episodes in recent shows and especially cartoons? Well, the meaning is still there. This is still supposed to be a very important, transformative night for the characters and for the plot. But the timing now is very different. No longer are balls and dances the big climax that is to be built up to at the end of the season or at the end of the show or at the end of the movie, but they have become scenes randomly placed throughout the story. I look at She-Ra and the Princesses of Power that places Princess Prom in the 8th episode of the show. And honestly, that was a terrible idea. We needed more time with the characters to really get to know them. And when we get to see the usual Catra hijinks, that's the problem. They are the usual. Nothing special about them. It's an episode that, even when I look back at it, it just feels like it's out of place and like it doesn't belong that recently in the story. And this is to contrast then with something like Gravity Falls' episode, Double Dipper, where there is a big dance at the Mystery Shack in episode 7, even sooner. The episode serves as a proper transformation, however, because Mabel starts making friends in the town of Gravity Falls, and she also confronts Pacifica Northwest. And as for Dipper, he realizes that he needs to be himself by the end of the episode when he's around his crush, Wendy. And as we also see in Journal 3, this all pays off because he actually gets to dance with her. But since we didn't really see it on screen, is it really payoff? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. But one of the biggest and hottest examples right now of modern cartoons using specifically the prom has been The Owl House and its episode, The Enchanting Grom Fight. This was a beautifully made episode and delivers a lot. However, we lack the build-up to the dance itself. Instead, this episode focuses on the payoff to the build-up of Lou's and Amity's relationship. Immediately, that makes it one of the stronger episodes that we have seen so far of repurposing a prom and dance scenes, and I think that comes about a lot for all of these shows because they rely much more on episodic storytelling, and so we can't really get build up to something like a big dance, or at least they don't focus on it, rather they focus instead on character progression. And that's the problem. The dance itself doesn't carry as much weight as it could have because the event itself wasn't built up. It could have been a much bigger moment, this wow for all of the characters, but really it ended up being a wow for two characters. Once again, it was beautifully done. It landed the beats that it was supposed to, but I feel like it could have been even bigger and better. A similar example is Amphibia, where the ball/dance at the end of the first season reveals to Anne that Sasha is also an Amphibia, something that we've known for a while as the audience, and the show builds up also several plot points to bring to this party, Anne being an outsider to the town, Hop Pop running for mayor, and Sasha working with Grom. As a result, though it is a weak party episode, if I'm being all honest, it has the most payoff for all of the examples within this section because it just brings all of these different plot points together. So though it's a weak party, it is still a fantastic episode. Now, I've kind of been jumping back and forth between all of these different examples right here. So really, you might be wondering, Lars, what's your verdict then on all of this? I do believe that creators have been using prom episodes as a way to reclaim their own prom nights. That is pretty much out there in the open. It's indisputable. However, that doesn't rankle me so much as the bad execution of the dance episodes themselves and their place within the greater plots of the shows. You have to understand the cultural expectations behind something like the prom before you can properly use it. If it's just there to gratify yourself and push a ship, it will always fall flat, no matter how decadent it is. These kinds of episodes should have proper build-up and carry a transformative moment for the cast or the plot, which is why I think that Amphibia and The Owl House do the best to deliver those moments and those episodes. Now, that being said, some stories do a good job of taking that expectation and doing something different. Like Better Off Dead, where the school dance is an absolute hilarious bust for the main character Lane. He doesn't get the girl and ends up getting chased down by a bunch of vindictive newspaper delivery boys, all of which highlights that he is going through these many social missteps because he can't get over his ex-girlfriend. He will only be able to move on and move away from all these painful experiences once he gets over her. And then there's something like Carrie, where the prom night is the culmination of all the bullying and misunderstandings that we have seen in the story thus far, leading to real trauma. Examples like these show how prom can be more than just a fantasy and happy ending kind of story trope, and instead deliver some amazing storytelling and highlight some social problems that teenagers actually grapple with in real life. And I, for myself, I actually wrote a novella a little while ago where a school prom is the setting to the story, and a curse takes effect on the students, leading the main characters to have to try and sort out what is going on and solve the differences between cliques who despise each other. So there is a variety of ways to use the prom or to use just a school dance setting to your story. But again, where they fall flat is where they just exist to serve up vain wish fulfillment and push a ship. So there you go, Clownfish TV. Maybe not as hot of a hot take as yours is, but my hope is that other writers out there can now better understand the implications and potential in using their own prom scenes or stories. If you would like more writing advice, please check out our other videos and also our podcast episodes found over at Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play. We also have writing exercises over for you at our Pinterest page, and if you would like to have discussions with us, we are always available over at our subreddit. Links for all of those sites are in the description, and thank you guys for joining us on this adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.